U.S. Marine veteran Trevor Reed fighting for his freedom in Moscow after he was sentenced to 9 years by a Russian court for allegedly assaulting 2 police officers in 2019. Charges his supporters and family say are unfounded and politically motivated. Joining us now, Joey and Paula Reed, Trevor's parents, and his sister Taylor. Thank you all so much for being with us, and we are sorry for what your family is going through. Joey, can I just start with you? He's been in prison since 2019, a long time, and there was some time before you were even able to communicate with him. You have heard from him recently. How's he doing?
Thank you for having us on the program. Yes, he's been in there almost a year and a half, and we started getting, I visited him a few times, and his mother and sister got to visit him once when his trial started in July of last year. And we started getting phone calls from him in the last 2 months, thanks to the embassy. And his health, he's holding up. He's had some medical issues, and medical treatment within the Russian prisons is horrible. And but he's holding up well, and the embassy's doing what they can to make sure he gets basic medical care.
So, Paula, we were speaking to you this morning. I understand that you were part of a conversation with the new U.S. Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, yesterday, where he spoke to families who have sons, daughters, loved ones either being held hostage or imprisoned in various places around the world. And you said having that conversation was like having a weight lifted off your shoulders. Why?
Well, it was very refreshing because we hadn't had any contact with higher level of the government and the prior administration. And the fact that Secretary Blinken was proactive in making the call to all of the families of the hostages and wrongfully detained within 6 days of his new appointment was just, it was awesome. We really, really appreciated it, and it showed a good faith effort in keeping the lines of communication open, which hadn't always been the case before. So we were very thankful.
I'm curious about that because the past administration was quite boastful about the work it had done with people who were either being held hostage or in custody around the world, but maybe not so much with people being held in Russia. So I'm confused by the fact that they didn't address it to a way that satisfied you, or you say even speak your son's name out in public. Why do you think that was?
I'm not really sure. We have a couple of theories. Let Joey address that.
Well, first of all, we think that if you talk about all the dozens or maybe even over 100 Americans held hostage in other countries, it might make you look weak. And to only talk about really the cases that you get the hostages brought home, they're all wins. And we think that may be why they weren't mentioned. And of course, in the Russia situation, there were all types of international and then internal politics as far as dealing with Russia. So, but we did feel also that we were fighting against our own government. We were afraid to say certain things or talk about certain things that our son had in his military history that might have offended the administration. And we now feel like that's been lifted and we can speak openly. In fact, Secretary Blinken said they want to hear all complaints all the time, and they'll take all of that into consideration.
It was interesting, and Paul, you can address this. He said, we want to hear all complaints and speak, criticize us, say whatever you want. We may do things that are in national interest that you may not think are in your family's interest, but that doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you. So how did that land with you?
It was great because I felt like Joey said, we felt like our hands had been tied before, and now I don't feel that. And I also felt that Secretary Blinken was very empathetic and sincere. I got the feeling that he really cared about everyone's family members and that this is a very important point to him that we are able to communicate openly and freely.
And Joey, another interesting point, timing point here, which is that Alexei Navalny, this Russian democracy leader, this dissident, sentenced to prison yesterday. You don't think this is disconnected thematically? You think this is part of the same theme from the Russian leader? What do you mean?
Well, first of all, his arrest and then the misuse of the judicial system is exactly what's happened with our son and Paul Whelan, the other American former Marine held by Russians. The judicial system just backs up law enforcement, and then they do the bidding of the government. And so in that way, they're similar. And we've kind of spoken out because there'd been a lot of speaking out by our government for Navalny and by officials and prominent people in the United States, and yet our son's name wasn't even being spoken. And so we felt like, well, if we're going to ask for the release of a Russian from Russian prisons, we should be asking for the release of innocent Americans that were falsely convicted, probably because they are United States Marines.
Taylor, I don't know if you can hear us or speak. I don't know if you're Mike, but how can the rest of us help your brother? How can all of us help Trevor right now?
Just raising awareness. We're trying to get his name out there and in the news and try to get as much support as we can. We do have a Twitter account going. It's freetrevorreed.com or is our website, and then we also have a Twitter page. We also have a GoFundMe. It's gofundme.com/f/freetrevorreed. And we're just trying to get some donations going for that, for all of his legal expenses.
Well, Taylor, Paula, Joey, thank you very much. We are thinking of your son, Trevor Reed, who has been in prison for more than a year now, sentenced to 9 years. We hope you get the help you need from the U.S. government going forward. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you,
Thank you for having us.